you don't know what to do. You just don't know what to do.
In the last year of his freedom, Sutcliffe showed his true colours. With the red light areas continually and obviously under police observation, Sutcliffe searched for vulnerable women elsewhere. Hospital grounds, halls of residence. He attacked a doctor, a civil servant, a schoolgirl, and finally a student. Headingley in Leeds hasn't changed a lot in 25 years. Even the waste ground behind the Arndale Centre is still there. In November 1980, Jacqueline Hill, a student at Leeds University, was dragged there by Sutcliffe to become his final murder victim.
The public response following Jacqueline's murder has been enormous. There's been a steady stream of fellow students from the Hall of Residence in Headingley, where Jacqueline lived, offering information about anything they saw on the evening she died, and the police switchboards have been jammed with calls. Jacqueline's death has reinforced fear and anger among women in this area.
Women's anger spilled onto the streets, resentful that many saw the way women behaved as part of the problem. Police attitudes were slow to change.
It certainly did appear to be taken more seriously once someone who wasn't labelled as a prostitute was killed, which is disgraceful really. But what happened then was that it appeared to become a contest between two men, George Oldfield on the one hand and the so-called Yorkshire Ripper on the other, as if women were somehow not there as part of it. We were just being told to stay indoors after dark.
Putting a curfew on women was an affront to many. Protest marches attracted hundreds.
About 500 of us gathered that night in City Square, and we marched along Boar Lane and up the hedgerow, and a breakaway group went into the cinema where the film Dressed to Kill was showing. Now, this is an appalling film that really encourages the audience to think that it's women's fault if they get raped and murdered and assaulted. It's dreadful and presents it as titillation. So a breakaway group went into the cinema, threw leaflets in the auditorium, shouted, made a noise, ran up and down the aisles, generally disrupted the proceedings. We got the impression that the police just thought we should stay at home, be victims, accept a victim status, and not be actively involved in trying to, in any way, challenge or prevent male violence.
For the West Yorkshire Police, the demonstrations were a nuisance, a distraction from the Ripper inquiry. In truth, they weren't getting anywhere, and they weren't going to get anywhere. January 3rd, 1981. Two coppers patrolling Sheffield's red light district saw a woman get into a car. They checked the number plate. It was false.
He walked over to the car, talked to Peter, who made some lame excuse, and then got out and said, "I'm going for a pee." And I think it was the young rookie policeman who saw him go to the back of the car, take something out and walk up to a nearby building. And what he'd taken was the hammer he was going to kill this prostitute with.
Ironic, isn't it, that it's South Yorkshire Police, in fact, that caught him, decided to just have a little look and see whether he had actually been for a pee.
That's right.
And that's when he found the
That's when, yeah.
And that's when they realised they had actually got him.
And he walked into the police station, went along and said, "Look what I found."
The finding of the ball-peen hammer and a kitchen knife sealed Sutcliffe's fate. Sergeant Ring and Constable Hyde had nicked the Ripper. There was euphoria with an edge of disappointment.
Oh, it was a wonderful feeling that it'd finally been nailed, but it was not very self-satisfying that all the hard work and great efforts by the West Yorkshire Police had been to no avail, and in fact he was caught purely by chance by officers from another force who did a good job, but it would have been nice to have nailed him in West Yorkshire.
But it was West Yorkshire Police who had to wrap up the prosecution. Former head of the Ripper squad, Dick Holland, needed proof Sutcliffe was the Ripper. His first port of call was Sutcliffe's home, where he lived with his wife, Sonia.
The first thing that struck me as she answered the back door, I went inside, there was the usual kitchen block of wood, polished wood. The house was very nice and decorated, very clean and tidy. And a series of knives going from a large one down to a very small one in slots. And the second largest one was missing. Now I had the knife from Sheffield, and it was obvious that that was the missing knife.
There was more. Holland searched for a hacksaw Sutcliffe had used to mutilate one of his victims.
I knew exactly what sort of hacksaw we were looking for, and it happened to be hanging up in the garage, and I found that hacksaw, and in fact traces of blood were found on the blade. So it was in fact the hacksaw, and they hadn't even changed the blade.
May 1981. Sutcliffe pleads guilty to manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. He said he heard the voice of God telling him to kill prostitutes. His defense is rejected. His sentence is life imprisonment for 13 murders and 7 attempted murders.
It was as if he were going to go on forever.
Yeah, well,
I don't think anybody thought he were ever going to get caught.
Even when they caught him, I were waiting for the next murders because I did not believe they had him. But as time went on and time went on and time went on and there were no more of these murders, you thought, God, they've got him.